And now on Radio Flange Goblet, we have an announcement. It is with heavy trousers and a vast collection of indecision and insecurity molehills stacked on top of each other to form a huge mountain of regret that we announce we have misplaced the station's unisex bathroom's lip sponge. The sponge had been a well-used and much-treasured fixture round here for the last few months, and often I would go into the lavatory and solemnly dab at my upper lip with it, slightly moistened with Gerald's Tash Tonic or Eau de Spunk. Sadly, some wily rapscallion has made off with it, probably that bastard Peters in accounting, and morale here is low. So low, in fact, that recently I broke a pottery likeness of Dame Agatha Christie's prize spaniel Terence out of sheer ennui and disinterest. There was this other time I took some of a baguette and mimicked the act of oral love on it in front of a busload of loudly shirted tourists on a sightseeing trip of hat stands in the Norfolk area. I may be slightly deviating from the topic, but if all that wasn't bad enough, it's now time for the After Movie Diner, the podcast that just won't die. This week it comes from a particularly sloppy Thai eatery in Basildon, where the armless head chef has learnt how to apply capers to carrot cake using his nostrils and a specially cut length of straw. Also, don't try the veal, it's fucking abysmal. I'm off now to go stick my genitals into a wall socket to see if Celia from marketing will love me again like that time in Spain with the handfuls of basil and a liberally glazed ferret named Methuselah. Welcome to yet another episode of the After Movie Diner, and it is a return to the old kind of format where I talk before we cut over to the diner to hear the conversation on this week's movie, because we have two very special brand new sponsors. First up, we have the fantastic Rich Del Zotto, who creates and runs Horror Realm, Pittsburgh's modern horror convention, which this year is a spring break massacre being held on March 4th through to March 6th at the Doubletree, Pittsburgh or Green Tree, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And you can find out all about that and purchase tickets over at www.horrorrealmcon.com. And they have got a fantastic lineup of guests this year. From Nightmare on Elm Street 3, 4, and 5, they've got various cast members, including Tuesday Night and Brooke Bundy. They have a complete Return of the Living Dead reunion, including Clu Gulager, Alan Troutman, Tom Matthews, Linnea Quigley, and more. There's also going to be Ken Free from Dawn of the Dead and, of course, From Beyond. Tiffany Shepis, one of the wonderful modern scream queens. Felissa Rose from Sleepaway Camp. And so on, and so on, and so on. I'm going to be there. My Lady Kim is going to be there. And Out of Print Dan, T-Shirt Joe, Tim Gross from Gross Movie Reviews, Carl Polling from the Bloodbaths and Boomsticks. Everyone's going to be there. Bryce Katzman, Space Jesus. Ed Quillen's going to be drawing you all as a zombie. And Rick Fosselman will be debuting his new son. So it's going to be absolutely fantastic and excellent. You will not want to miss Horror Realm this year. Get your tickets now over at horrorrealmcon.com. And thank you ever so much, Rich, for sponsoring this week's show.
Cartoon Curious. Owen and Jake talking animation. Cartoon Curious. TV shows, movies, any kind of creation. Cartoon Curious. Don't touch that dial, don't change that station. Cartoon Curious. This is the very best podcast in the nation.
The fantastic Owen Duravage, or Owen Duravage, not sure how you pronounce your last name there, Owen, but Owen from the Cartoon Curious podcast also donated to the show this week. Do you remember that one cartoon? How about the one with the stretchy guy, or the one with the little hairy guy with the club, or possibly the Rambo cartoon? Do you remember those? No? Well, they do. Cartoon Curious, a podcast about nostalgia, animation, and a whole lot of cheese. Basically, two fantastically bearded gentlemen from Vermont talk all about the cartoons you remember from your childhood, or maybe you don't. They also pick out some oddities you didn't even know were cartoons and talk all about them. If it's animated and if it's from the 80s, and if it's worth talking about while possessing a simply glorious beard, then Owen and his good friend Jake will do so. The Cartoon Curious podcast can be found on iTunes, Libsyn, YouTube, and wherever podcasts can normally be found. Just look up cartooncurious.libsyn.com. That's SYN.com, or search Cartoon Curious Podcast on iTunes or YouTube, and you will enter a world of tremendous fun, excitement, animated glory, cheese, and all the good stuff. So please do check that out. I have been on the Halloween episode. That's well worth taking a look, speaking about the Rambo cartoon, which was a lot of fun. And former guest of the After Movie Diner and once co-host of the Schlock Treatment podcast, Kirk Howley, has made 2 trips over to the Cartoon Curious podcast, so that is well worth checking out as well. There is also a Facebook page, so search on Facebook for Cartoon Curious. And thanks again, Owen, for sponsoring the show. If you would like your messages read out at the beginning of the show, or if you would like to tell us how much you love the show, or if you would like to sponsor the show, or if you would like to donate to the show, there are many ways to do it. The main best way is to patronize the show over at patreon.com, which is patreon.com/aftermoviediner. You can equally go to www.aftermoviediner.com and hit the donate button on our website. That would be absolutely fantastic. You can buy my music and records over at miscplumbingfixtures.bandcamp.com. That's MISC as in miscellaneous, plumbingfixtures.bandcamp.com. And you can also write to us at aftermoviediner@gmail.com. I'll read out any correspondence we get via there. You can join the After Movie Diner and Dr. Action Facebook group, which is absolutely tremendous, or just write us a review on iTunes, Spreaker, Stitcher, YouTube, and all over the place, wherever podcasts are found. That's where we are. If you don't want to do any of those things, why not comment on our website? Our website has full comment capabilities, so why not go on to www.aftermoviediner.com and comment on some of our posts? We're going to be putting up some more reviews and more podcasts and all the good stuff you love. So I would suggest you bookmark that. Anyway, now after all that good stuff, we are over to the main show. This week over at the Cozy Soup and Burger Diner on 8th Street near Astor Place in New York City. Let's take you there now. All right, hello and welcome back to another on-location After Movie Diner episode. And thankfully he is back from Blighty after the holiday period. And my old co-host and chum, James Wallace, is back here in the diner. Say hello, sir.
Hello.
And new movement for the diner. Movement? What's that mean? New...
Direction?
Direction. No, new idea.
New idea.
For the diner, I guess.
Okay.
This is a great sign for the start of the show, right? I can't even think what new direction for the diner is going to be that...
You're ready after what we saw, you're sticking to it?
Yeah, I'm sticking to it.
Okay, all right.
That from now on, no matter what it is, Jim picks the movies.
All right, I'm going to pick the movies from now on.
And so, Jim, today was the first one.
Yes, it was.
And what did you pick?
I picked.
See, I realised that if I throw it squarely at your feet...
Right, if you throw me to the wall.
Yeah, you are clearly to blame for what I just had to go through.
I didn't think it was...
No, I know you didn't think.
Obviously it was bad.
It was clear you didn't think.
Obviously it was bad.
What's the name of the movie?
The name of the movie is Anger of the Dead.
Right. Even the title doesn't bode well.
No.
Because the title doesn't mean anything.
No. It definitely didn't. I mean, I wouldn't say that the zombies in the movie were especially angry.
No.
You know?
Can I get you something to me saying the water or something?
I'll get a cup of chamomile tea.
Chamomile tea.
That would be lovely. Thank you very much.
And could I get a mug of just regular black English breakfast tea, please? Sure. Thanks.
Yeah, so it was called Anger of the Dead.
Well, how did you sell it to me? You sold it to me.
Okay, well, look, my
on the basis
my
of
feeling was that the
country of which it was made.
Yeah, it was a low budget Italian horror movie, and Crossi, as you may or may well not know, listeners of the Diner, has bemoaned on many an occasion that Italy doesn't make crappy B-movie horrors anymore, or at least you don't get crappy B-movie horrors like you used to get from Italy in the 70s.
It's not that they're crappy. Like Lucio Fulci and Argento movies are not crappy, or Lucio Cosi movies and other people like that. They're not like crappy. They're fun.
Yeah, okay, fun.
But they're well shot. And they're...
Which, yeah, fair enough. No, but I guess what I'm saying is that you
Like, I
wish...
just watched Zombie again the other day.
Right, but they were.
And they're
But,
really good.
leaving aside the fact that they're well shot and they're fun and all the rest of it, they were financed on the basis of being rip-offs of successful American movies shot on the cheap by Italians.
That they were.
Right. So this was a rip-off of successful American zombie movies shot on the cheap by Italians, and I thought
This
could be worth a look. What does a modern version of that look like?
Yeah, that's how you
Thank
felt.
you very much. Yeah, and I thought worth a look
Yeah, and I said no way repeatedly,
because you saw the trailer,
and you were like,
which to
no,
be
no,
fair
no,
was bad.
no, we're still going to go see it. And I've been watching a lot of movies lately with my lady Kim, and I've been watching a bunch of movies with her, and I've really, really, really enjoyed something which I wasn't doing back last year so much of, and that was just taking a weekend out and just watching movies.
Right.
And I've got right back into that mindset of it doesn't matter where I go for the next 90 minutes, but I'm going to sit down and watch it. You know what I mean? Like, I've got back into that mindset. So
Right.
when we ummed and ahed about this movie, I was like, you know what, maybe I could just go watch it. Because, like, how bad can it be? You
And the
know what I
answer
mean?
is pretty bad.
Pretty bad.
I mean, pretty bad.
Pretty...
I think I could say, without fear of contradiction, that the cut I saw of Zombie,
Right.
and I did see a cut of Zombie,
Yeah,
thing,
the rough cut of Zombie.
the rough cut
That
of
still had
Zombie
scenes
was a better movie than this one.
No.
It really...
No, because this
Really
movie
was.
had two things going for it.
Okay. Oh, wow, all right.
And that was the Tuscan countryside
Yes, that's true.
and
Tuscany is nicer than Wickham,
on
agreed.
3 or 4 of what I'll call the hero zombies, or the ones that we saw the most of, some pretty impressive makeup and effects.
On the zombies, the zombie faces.
Yeah.
Because that was kind of about it with the effects.
Yeah, you didn't see any like chewing anything off. Well, you saw him cut the guy's foot off. That wasn't bad.
That was all right, actually. The cutting the foot off was...
So comparative
it wasn't
to,
good.
to Zombie the movie I made, or Zombie exclamation
Yes,
mark
but-
to give it its real title.
But the pointless dialogue that your characters had was a lot better than the pointless dialogue they had.
Oh, I don't know about that.
I think it was.
There was a scene in my movie Zombie exclamation mark in which my friend Matt spoke at length about the first girl that let him touch her vagina. In a
I don't think I saw
very
that in the rough
unpleasant and unfunny way.
And you kept that in?
yeah.
Did you write that?
Yeah.
You wrote that?
Yeah. It was meant to be that in the midst of this chaotic and ridiculous time, this idiot character, Matt, didn't realise that no one wanted to hear this horrendous story.
Well, when you put it like that, it seems like quite a good idea.
So no, it was a funny if misjudged joke. That's all I'm going to say.
All right. Well, anyway, what I want us to do is embrace the terrible movies, because I think that...
And I'm embracing. I am embracing.
I think there's a chance, even if the trailer looks bad, and it looked bad, and even if it has terrible reviews, and this had terrible reviews, that there could still be gems out there. And if we had, Christian Slater in space movies in the cinema, then that's what we would go and see. But as we noticed, there's been like a marked drop-off in that.
Of Christian Slater or Lawrence Fishburne in the Frozen Wasteland.
No. This is a slight...
No, I was going to say this. No. I was saying there's been a lull in,
Yes,
in
right.
the Stranded, and what was that called? The Colony.
Colony, right?
Which we quite enjoyed. in
Colony
its
was
own
okay,
way.
yeah, it was fine, yeah. But there used to be
There's
movies
been
like
a drop
that.
off
But
of
the
For
Jean-Claude-
example, the Jean-Claude Van Damme movie.
Tried to
didn't
get
come
his
out,
liver back,
And
right?
Dragon's Blade
Yeah, they didn't come out
I
either.
have them both now on.
What's the Jean-Claude Van Damme trying to get his liver back?
Oh, it's good. Yeah, it's alright. It's fun.
See?
I mean, it's ludicrous. It's taken, but with a
With his liver.
liver.
Right,
But
I think that's brilliant. But I'd love to have seen that. But yeah, so and there was a time, and the reason I went with this one is there was also a time a couple of months back when I wanted us to go and see
What are you having, by the way?
I think I'm going to have the Reuben.
You're going to have the Reuben. He's going to go for the Reuben.
It says it had our specialty in big red letters written next to it.
Our specialty is the Reuben.
So that's what
I
wanna
need
try.
milk.
Yeah, you do, don't you?
Can I get a little thing of milk for my tea?
Milk, sure.
Thanks, man. Or half and half, whatever you got.
I've got half and half of tea. I guess you can. It tastes like shit either way.
Thank you for that. Positivity.
So,
Thank you, my friend.
yeah, there was a
Guys, decide or you need a few minutes?
We did say yes.
yeah. Can I get the Reuben
Pastrami or con vino?
pastrami
Pastrami, you can get either French fries or potato salad.
potato salad?
Potato salad and pastrami, okay?
Yeah, I will. Actually, no, scratch that. I'll have French fries. Yeah,
French
French
fries?
fries. Yeah, French fries.
Okay, so pastrami and French fries.
Yeah.
And can I get the chicken fingers with honey mustard dip? And can I also get that with French fries? And can I get a side of brown gravy as well, please?
Does it come with fries or is that extra?
Comes with fries.
Yeah, there was a time
In the same way they do a deluxe or a non-deluxe.
I see. I was going to say because you can have my fries because it comes with the fries, and I'm only going to have like one or two. You can just have nothing.
I think it's $1 difference.
All right. I'm just saying. I'm just trying to help.
It's fine. Carry on speaking. So anyway, what is it?
Um,
Angry of the dead. But they're very angry.
Anger of
All
the
the
dead.
dead are
Oh,
angry.
they are angry.
All they are.
No, there was a movie a couple of months
They've
back.
got a right mood on.
And it was Vinnie Jones in some action movie,
We
and
should've
obviously
gone
it
to
was
see
going to be terrible.
We should've
But
gone
we
to
should have gone to see it.
We should've gone to
You know,
see
because what I like about these, we go to the cinema and we watch a terrible movie, and sometimes they're good, and sometimes they're okay, and sometimes they're bad. But we go and then we talk about it.
Yeah.
And I prefer them to be weird, you know.
Me too. I'm
Crazy. How the fuck is this in the cinema movies? And how is this in the cinema in New York?
Well, when we say in the cinema, it was in the smallest screen in Cinema Village, and it was clearly a DVD that was being projected.
Yeah, but don't ruin the
But you're right. How is it that Cinema Village, of all the movies that came out this week, looked at that and went, "We could take Anger of the Dead
We
for,
should put
for
Anger
a
of the
week."
Dead. Because, like, I mean, first of all,
But it's kind of genius.
I can't think of a single moment
But when you
in
think
the entire process of making of the movie, from even the idea onwards to us sitting there watching it, I don't know how at any stage on that journey anybody said let's keep going. I don't know why anybody would say that.
No.
If whoever the director was sat down and said this is the idea I've got for the movie, I go come up with a
Oh,
different
do you know where it
idea.
came from? It came from a short film he made. He made a short version of this, and someone looked at it and went, "Yeah, all right." And he stretched it out to 90 minutes.
See,
Well,
so
84
the
minutes.
journey's even before that. So
Yeah.
even when he sat down and said, "I've got an idea for a short movie," I don't know how anyone said, "Let's do it.
Yeah, let's do it."
keep going. Let's keep going on this journey of yours."
Do you know what hasn't been like what baffles me is how anybody sits down in a room, even by themselves, and says, "You know what I could do really well? A zombie film."
Right.
At this point, right, you have to be living under a rock, like without Netflix, without cable, without. I mean, God, I haven't watched terrestrial telly for a while, but I bet even terrestrial telly has a few zombies popping up all over the
They
place.
do. They've
willy-nilly.
they've even got that cheesy one on Sci-Fi. It's like a
Oh,
Walking Dead
zombie?
rip-off.
Yeah, that's the asylum.
No, that's the CW, which is not good. But there's also a Sci-Fi one.
Yeah, I thought it was.
No, there's a Sci-Fi one.
The
There's-
sci-fi one is by Asylum, and I forget what it's called now. But I thought that was iZombie. That's-
No, iZombie is like by the same guy that did Veronica Mars, and it's not good.
Oh, that's on the CW.
Yeah, it's like
Rob
cheesy,
Thomas?
ironic. No. Oh yes, Rob Thomas. Yeah. It's not good.
Okay.
But there's a sci-fi one with that guy in it. Anyway, that's not good either.
All I mean is, you would
Yeah.
have to be living under a fucking rock in the desert in a
Because
well.
nothing about it. But okay.
No, but
Sorry.
to not realise that our once beloved, and while beloved, also much maligned by the modern swathe of critics,
Yeah.
zombie genre, which we both embraced and loved back
Yeah.
when it was the Fulcis and the Romeros of the world, kicking them out that has been, I mean, just overrun. It's just been absolutely. They've literally torn every last bit of gut and ligament out of the genre, and it's literally like a bunch of not even very well made up zombies now licking the bones.
But could you say? I mean,
to use a zombie metaphor
Look.
about the zombie genre, which I thought was quite clever.
yes, it was. I didn't mean to breeze past your cleverness. That was.
I'm making a face. I'm
That
making
was
a silly
unfair.
face.
That was unfair.
I'm making a silly face. People need to know.
He didn't make a silly face. He was totally straight faced when he said that.
No,
and afterwards he realised what he sounded like.
No,
No?
no.
All right, fair
I
enough.
made a silly face.
But here's the thing.
Yeah.
Leaving aside the fact that obviously it's devoid of any kind of artistic principle, merit or worth, I understand why, okay, we'll make it because maybe we'll make some money out of it. But the days of we'll rip off American cinema, but we'll make it in it.
But they're not
for
even
no
ripping off
money.
Americans. They're ripping off bad American TV. That's what they're ripping.
Okay, fair enough. So, ripping off bad American TV shows, or some people think they're good American TV shows, even though they're bad American TV shows. Ripping them off, doing them in Italy with Italian actors,
Yeah.
not dubbing them, but it wouldn't have been totally.
No, some of them were dubbed.
Some of the people
Because there
were
was
dubbed.
in the credits at the end, there was a list of people who did their voices.
Oh, well, there we go. Okay. So, no. There was a list of people in the credits who did TV and radio voice. It wasn't like they didn't dub.
No, there was a couple that were voiced.
Oh, all right. Okay, fair enough.
I don't think any of the main players. I think all the main players were just actors doing
Right.
speaking a second language.
But how does that seem like a business plan? Yes, in the 70s, where there was, you get them into the cinema with, a promise of it's another zombie film and there's going to be boobs and gore and violence or whatever.
Right.
And then it's too late to, before you realise that, oh, it's actually Italian and these people are Italian and it's badly done, but who cares because there's lots of violence and whatever.
Right. Plus back then,
But that was a business plan. But how does this...
those movies were only screening on 42nd Street.
Yeah. No. They wouldn't drive-ins and stuff, right? Because Night of the Living Dead was a second picture on a drive-in.
Oh yeah, no, right. But what I mean is, they weren't driving in. They weren't screening in reputable places.
No, definitely not. No. But my point is those places don't exist anymore. So why would you make this movie? I mean, he's not saying anything interesting. It's not trying to be funny. It's not trying to be interesting. It's not even trying to be particularly
No, he thought he
original.
was being very interesting.
How did he think he was being interesting?
Because he wrote dialogue that said, "We can't live in the past anymore.
No, but
and
that
the
was
future
brilliant.
lies ahead of us.
And the present
And
is all
so-
that matters.
And the present is all that matters."
But it was. So
So he
honestly,
thinks that's a portentous thing to
If
be
you- if
saying.
you- if
he
you
thinks
wanted,
it's a
like-
psychologically interesting thing to say.
I
when
can't-
really all he's saying is existence is kind of linear, which we all know.
But I don't think he can't believe that
He
has
had
any
two
merit.
people sat by a campfire, right, talking inane twaddle, and then the next morning
was
they
a bit-
wake up and Italian Sorbo had hung himself.
Right, yeah, sorry. If Sorbo is listening, I'd like to apologise, but there was a character who looked like Italian Sorbo.
And another character who looked like Italian Giles.
He was more like, he felt like Italian Giles. He didn't look so much like him, he felt like him.
He was kind of tall, had a biggish head for his body.
If you're listening, I don't think that. That's
You kind of think so, because
No, I don't.
You had the laugh of recognition that Giles.
No,
has a
I find it. No, he
John
doesn't.
has a big head as well. It's all right.
Well, John was born with that head, and the rest of his body just grew up.
No, I
to
don't mean
the
that
round.
Giles has big. I just mean that Giles has a very dynamic head.
So you're saying that the one
He
thing
looked
going for
like
the
a
Italian
Italian
actor
guy.
was like he was dynamically headed.
Well, once he got a beard.
Once he got a beard, fair enough. So the beard.
Which we had a debate in the middle of the screening as to whether
I thought the
beard was
moustache
real,
part
but
was
the
phony.
moustache was fake.
I think the moustache part of his beard was phony.
Why would that be something?
I don't know. It looked phony. It looked phony.
I don't know.
But what I'm saying is about the conversation about the past, the present, and the future, and the argument they had, the completely brilliant argument about the ferry.
It wasn't brilliant.
It
You are
was.
saying it's brilliant, but
No,
it was
because
inane
it was
teeth grindingly
it was
awful.
no, it wasn't. It was like it was an argument written by somebody who understood what an argument was, but had never had one. You know, it was like a drawing of a dodo.
No,
it was completely
a
fascinating.
drawing of a donut.
A dodo.
Oh, a dodo. Oh, okay.
You know, like yeah, but no. More importantly, like this isn't. There's some of the some of the lines in the argument.
The reason why it
I hear
reminded
what you're saying. They were having like a furious row about what to do.
The reason why it
None of which
reminded
made
me
any
of
sense.
Zombie, and the reason why I can, with hindsight, say that Zombie was utter shash, although there are undoubtedly like some little fun ideas in there, but
Of which this had none.
Of which, okay, that's you
Thank
can
you very
maybe
much.
say that. But the execution of
Do
it.
you want a little spicy mustard Russian dressing?
I'm all right. Do you want anything?
No, just the brown gravy is great.
Well, this is lovely. Thanks very much. Thank you.
No, but the execution of Zombie was fucking ridiculous. Was that, for example, in Zombie, there is a sequence where me and two other people save my ex from a car that is being beset upon by zombies, right? Only to then run away, rather than get in the car and drive off.
Yeah, but that's
Right.
nothing compared to.
Because in my head, right?
Right.
In my head, when I was writing it, I wasn't thinking about, oh yeah, there's a car they could all get into and drive away. Right?
Right.
I was thinking like, wait a minute, Beth and I can't drive cars, so so we might as well not write that in. We can have her in a car, but then we should all run home. But that doesn't make any sense. But it makes sense in my head while I'm writing it. So what I'm saying is, there was a bunch of conversations and sequences, thank you, sir, thank you, in this movie that felt like they probably made sense in his head while he was writing it for some reason we don't know. But once you put it up on the screen for all to see and sit back and try and understand it, a lot of it makes very little sense.
But I think what's amazing.
Also, the whole, like, there's a radio broadcast of a possible, hopeful resolution to this is like the most thin and twatty thread to hang this threadbare film on.
Because, okay, let's talk about the fact that nothing happened in the whole movie.
Nothing.
I mean, the reason we're not summing up the plot is nothing happened.
Nothing. Well, they thought there was two intertwining storylines.
There were.
Oh.
There was. So, okay, but in answer to your, there were things that I don't think it did make sense in his head, because I think he doesn't speak English very well, and all the dialogue is like, it's almost the Chinese whispers of zombie movie dialogue. Like, I know what zombie movie dialogue is supposed to be, but I don't really understand the language all that well, so I'm going to write it.
But dude, Lucio Fulci doesn't even speak English.
Yeah, but he didn't write his bloody movie. So if he did, he wrote them in Italian. He got someone to translate. This guy wrote that dialogue in English because it kind of made sense, but not really.
None of it made sense. As far as I could figure it, to paraphrase the story very, very quickly,
Good luck.
there was a really bad actress.
Really bad. Like, why is she in the movie?
Yeah, we're watching it going, okay, she's not particularly attractive. She's a terrible actress. You're going to make her pregnant, so therefore there's not going to be any sequences where she gets her baps out, because that's not going to be part of the movie. I'm sorry for the sexist term, her breasts. But you know what I mean. We're two guys. I'm not apologizing. Shut up.
Baps is fine.
So, there was no reason for her to be in the movie, because like once you get rid of good actress or good looking or whatever, and the only reason I'm saying that is because if you go along and see a movie with Meryl Streep in it or whatever, you know why Meryl Streep's in that movie. You're not sat there going,
Except
why
for
is
Ricky in the Flash. We don't know why she was in Ricky in the Flash.
Yeah, we do, because she wanted to do something a bit enjoyable where she sang a bit.
Have you seen Ricky?
No, why would I have seen Ricky?
Well, I saw it on the plane. It's weirdly a bit racist, but anyway, carry on.
Oh, okay. Or when you go along, okay, even when you go along and you see who's awful, Emily Mortimer is awful, but when you see her in a movie, you go, okay, I understand why someone thought she wasn't awful. She is awful, but I understand why someone thought she wasn't awful.
Yeah, okay, I see what you're saying.
Right?
Right.
And in a low-budget zombie exploitation movie, right, which this was, to all intents and purposes, minus
exploitation
the
of the
boobs,
audience,
I guess. Minus the boobs, but there was like child killing, and there was like zombies, and there was gore, and there was whatever. Like, it was an exploitation movie by any other.
Yeah.
Right? In that movie, if someone's a bad actress, which you assume they're going to be, or even if they're a bad actor, which you assume they're going to be,
Right.
there is a reason why you have them in the movie. Right. And normally, it's either because they were A, the producer's friend, or B, willing to do nudity, or C, were beautiful enough that even though they couldn't act, and even though they weren't willing to do nudity, were beautiful enough to kind of like carry the movie for the 18-year-old boys that the movie was made for. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying these are my desires of actresses.
You don't have to.
I'm explaining
qualify.
it within the genre trope.
Yeah, that's
right?
cool.
And we were watching this movie, and from the first sequence, which she features heavily, and we were like, there is no reason this actress
No,
isn't.
she can't act.
Can't act, isn't beautiful, doesn't do nudity, doesn't scream well,
No, doesn't even
doesn't
scream.
cry well.
Doesn't
Like,
do anything well.
all the things, all the reasons why one would put her in the movie.
All the reason why you put her in any movie, let alone this movie, like
Right.
there was nothing going on. It was so.
So
It was literally that I
she
wouldn't be
abandons
surprised.
the city
No.
with a guy who doesn't have a beard,
Oh, right,
and
sorry.
4 months later has grown one.
Yeah.
That's it in terms of character. And I'm not exaggerating.
That's true.
Right.
There's very little going on
They
there.
then pick up Italian Sorbo
Yeah.
on a road that they spend an inordinate amount of time
No,
on.
we don't know how they pick up Italian sorbet, but we do know they spend at least a week driving down one road.
One road. Now,
Just one road. It's obviously just the same road.
we meet Italian Sorbo as his sister has quite clearly, you don't have to be Sherlock Holmes to realise, has been bitten in the neck. Do you know how I know she's been bitten in the neck?
She's got massive
She's
teeth
got
marks.
massive teeth marks.
Has she
on
been
her
bitten? Has she been bitten? She's got teeth marks on her neck. Mm-hmm. How do you not know this?
neck. So,
Italian Sorbo pretends.
but
No. Yeah, okay. You were right. I thought him not killing his sister because he didn't kill her. He pretended to kill her. And then, as they were driving away, he looks at the window and there she is, zombieing away. And I thought, oh, she'll come back. But you knew that it would mean
No.
nothing. That it would amount to nothing, and it did. It amounted to absolutely nothing.
right. It amounted to absolutely
Then a
nothing.
bit further along the same road, they camp for the night.
And he kills for everything.
Yeah, it's great.
Lovely,
Fantastic.
thank you, man.
They camp for the night, where they have the aforementioned philosophical discussion,
And then he hangs himself.
and then he hangs himself for no reason.
Well, I don't know. I'd watched the film this far and I felt quite like topping myself.
No,
So,
fair enough.
running tandem to this, the other fascinating tale that was going on
Oh God.
was that there was a woman, well, there was an encampment of army people who, and
Well-
this was stolen like wholesale essentially from Day of the Dead.
We
but
knew
without
that,
any
we
of
knew
the
they were
tackle.
army because they were wearing mismatched camouflage trousers.
They were.
They couldn't even scrape up the funds to buy trousers from the same store.
Yeah, but dude, that's why it reminded me of Zombie, because I literally went down to the army surplus market and anything I could get for $5 I bought, and then you just wore mismatched green clothing. And
We
I
were
figured-
better matched than these guys. We had jackets. All they had was navy blue t-shirts.
We did spring for jackets.
They didn't even spring for jackets.
So the evil army guys who, it's revealed later on, but it was abundantly obvious throughout the movie. There is one woman with like very short cropped hair who is immune to the zombie virus and therefore like could be the answer to some form of cure, right? Which wasn't much of a twist because it was bloody obvious from the beginning because they were doing tests on her, although we couldn't quite tell what test because the camera wouldn't pull out more than fucking 2 inches
No, but we
away.
did know they involved syringes because they could spring for syringes.
They involved syringes and
They're
her,
diabolical.
and her jaundiced boobs, which were not pleasant to look at.
Right, but what was weird is, right? Well, not weird exactly, but they had all these, they were trying to get, this is what was so odd about the movie, in many, many ways. You could tell what they were going for. In fact, it's a good example. You can tell they were going for troubling medical experiments, gore, that kind of vibe,
Right.
But all they could afford was syringes.
Yeah.
So it's just a guy sticking a syringe in, and there's all the cameras shaking around and the doomy music and the experiment, but it's just a syringe going in and coming out. And that was it.
they did slice it down the chest.
That was because they had to. That was the second time you saw it. But that first time, where he's like, close up on the hands. He gets the syringe out, and it's supposed to be terrifying. Oh my God, what's he going to do with that syringe?
Also, there was a sequence when it cut back to her cell that she was being held in,
Right.
where one of the guys was doing up his belt,
Yeah, that was weird.
which I'm assuming therefore they were also using her to just have sex with.
Which seems like. Why?
And he does say later on that the villain with the leather jacket, the scar down his face, and I'm not kidding, a pipe.
Yeah, a pipe. An actual pipe.
As-
I was convinced it was going to be some kind of colonial thing. Because the guy that started talking before Pipe Man started talking had an English accent. I thought,
Right.
for some reason. Because also, we're supposed to be in America, but everybody so far has had unbelievably thick Italian accents.
Right.
Why not make the bad guys just
But
the English
the
army?
bad guy had decided to put on an American accent.
Yeah, but
which
with
was,
a pipe.
Which was clearly put on an American
It
accent.
was, yeah.
However, no one said everyone else is talking Italian, mate. Just carry on.
Yeah.
You don't need to because it's just confusing.
Yeah.
If you're American when you're not really American, that's just confusing.
Yeah.
But he
Yeah.
plodded on with it. He was determined.
He did not give in. Terrible lines. His lack of talent, ability, charisma, or menace did not hold him back.
What was the line he said? He said, "Words, many people use them. Wisdom, very few."
That was it.
That was his line. Meaning that people talk all the time, but very few have wisdom.
He said something like, he
Again,
also
not
said
an
about
insightful thing either.
pay little attention to those too. It's something like pay little attention to talkers and chatterboxes.
Yeah.
He said,
Yeah.
which was chatterboxes is not a word that I would
No.
put in the mouth of my, unnerving, desperate villain.
Right.
It's just weird.
Who managed to be utterly despicable and do horrific things without ever being menacing. And what
No.
I mean by that is
Yeah.
that clearly menacing to the people he was doing horrific things to, but not to the audience.
No.
I never felt any menace. When he did the mean, horrible things, I just went, ugh, that's kind of mean and horrible.
No, I
and
know what you
ugh.
mean, yeah.
But I never felt any menace from him being around.
No, that's a good point.
Mainly because I could just hit his pipe and it would burn his nose off and I would run out of the room. Or he'd swallow his pipe or something. A pipe
think
is
that's
not
another-
a good appendix.
That's another interesting. But again, it's my bad guy needs a thing. I'll have him smoke a pipe. It's just every decision that was made on this movie should have been the decision that made them go, we should pack this in.
Yeah.
But they kept going.
Yeah.
And the more the movie went on, the more I started to admire how
The
a bunch
determination
of people
that.
with no talent
Yeah.
at all, no
No.
imagination.
And we're not being mean about that.
No, they have no talent and they have no imagination, but they kept going.
Well,
Even when you see cheesy sitcoms or or terrible movies or whatever, they're being held together with a certain degree of professionalism.
Right.
Yeah, the writing may be hackneyed and the acting's awful and blah blah blah, but the DOP knows what he's doing, or somebody somewhere knows
Except
what
the
they're doing because
Big
it's
Bang
getting
Theory.
made. Yeah, but even that, I bet the people shooting that are some of the best.
probably. But
And
it's
the best
awful.
cameraman, of course it is. But they're the best cameraman in the business. You know what I mean? That's what holds it together. Even though it's awful and empty, it's being helped. But nobody.
I haven't even got round to the director of photography's obsession with filming wildlife and peeling walls and chairs.
As far as
and-
the director or the DOP, maybe it's the DOP. Let's go with the DOP. As far as the DOP is concerned, the biggest menace that a zombie apocalypse poses to humanity is what it will do to the paint. Right?
Yeah.
Because it's just
And the chairs.
the chairs, but the paint alone. Because there was even a close-up
Yeah.
of a wall with peeling paint on it at the beginning. That was
Oh.
look at this. This is what we've got to look forward to.
The best line though in the whole thing that had me giddy was when he said, "Has the old shoemaker's place been checked, yeah.
Do you mean the old shoemaker? No, you said, has the big building next to the highway been checked? Do you mean, oh no, has it been cleared by the cleansing squad?
Right. Has it been cleared by the cleansing squad?
No, but it's been cleansed by the clearing
It's
squad.
been cleansed by the cleansing squad, but not cleared by the cleansing squad. They said, if I have told you anything, it's that we clear before we cleanse. Cleansing before we clear is a fool's
It's a
errand.
big no-no. No, it's a big no-no. Oh, it hadn't been cleansed by the clearing squad.
But it was clearly a factory or an abandoned hospital or something. The
Yeah.
last thing it was a shoemaker's warehouse. But they had put some boxes of shoes in there.
So she knocked over a box and we go, oh, it's a box of shoes.
Yeah.
Because it's a shoemaker's factory.
Which must have...
Do you
upped
mean the old shoemaker's factory?
I think it upped the budget by at least 150 drachma or whatever ancient currency they made this movie.
I loved that it was the old shoemaker's factory. Because what do they need to... Anyway, it doesn't really matter.
Right. If it was like the old shoemaker's thing and then they found out that shoes somehow helped, like that would be wonderful. But the old shoemaker's factory,
What are we going to put in the boxes?
why?
I don't know. Because they wanted to know what they were going to put in the boxes, and all they had lying around was shoes.
They could have put fucking packing peanuts in the boxes for all I gave a toss.
That would be way out of their budget. They took the shoes off it, like the director of photography or one of the extras, and put them in the box.
I wouldn't be surprised if they took one of the boots off the director of photography because the camera was so
What the hell was
shaky.
it? There was an amazing bit.
There was a bit where it looked like someone, like a PA, had brushed past him and like he shook the camera as if like someone was trying to carry a cup of tea behind his back and accidentally nudged it.
I like at the beginning over the. You know how in
I mean, it kept it in. They didn't go, should we shoot that again? Nah, it'll be fine. Don't worry about it.
you know how in movies whatever when they have like
Unbelievable.
when there's like a sequence of impressive shots.
Yeah.
And then the most impressive shot is the one that they put directed by whatever, you know? Like the real way shot
Right.
of the title sequence is going to be like directed by. And this one, when directed by whoever it was came up, it was over the shot of the cars on
Yeah.
the bridge. Because, by the way, the other thing that zombies are a threat to are your suitcases.
Yeah.
Because all that was lying around by the abandoned cars was just lots and lots of clothes, just draped over a roof here and a bonnet there. No blood, no bodies, just they ripped the suitcases to pieces. Anyway, the shot where the directed by comes up is the shot of the cars on the bridge, but it was all wobbly.
Yeah.
And so his directed by thing was wobbling really heavily on the screen, and he was clearly like, yeah, that's artistic. But it was pretty obvious the guy, because it was raised up, was just standing on a ladder and couldn't keep the camera still.
Yeah.
And that was the directed by me. That's the shot I want.
Yeah.
The wobbly ladder shot.
It was incredible. 2/3 of the movie looked like the director of photography was busting for a pee. Except when he was filming close-up butterflies for no reason.
Yeah, and caterpillars and stuff. It was
Yeah.
it was full of stuff like that. You know? It was full of these.
Which was actually something that I found kind of charming because, like, when you look back at some of those older independent movies, like Alien Factor, the first Tondola movie, for example, there's a long sequence where they're going into the woods to find the alien spaceship, right? And while they're walking through, there are like shots of trees and nature and life and shit going on because they had to pad out the running time, and also because like he was genuinely interested in photography of stuff and he wanted to kind of put that in his movie as well.
Right.
But he wasn't making the movie to be screened to like international audiences. He was making it in his back garden to maybe show to some of his friends. The fact that it happened to get on television and, you know, kind of fund the rest of his career making movies in his back garden was just thankful for us. Like, we got to see more of his movies. Also, and we watched Night Beast up at the cabin when we were up at the cabin, because I showed Kim Blood, Boobs and Beast the documentary about Don Zola, and then we watched Night Beast. And the reason why I can never ever like criticize Don Zola in the way that other people can, or criticize any of those like low budget guys who did it in their back garden with a video camera and tried to do the best they can, is he edits like a proper movie, like it's a pacey proper movie. And he knows, I have to have my hero do this, I have to have the fool do this, I have to have the guy. Like, he knows how to put an action hero, a comedic sidekick, a idiot foil, a a bunch of rednecks, or whatever it is. He knows like how to fill a movie with 1950 monster movie stereotypes, keep it pacey, throw a bunch of guys in monster suits up on a wall, and make it enjoyable. Do you know what I mean? Like, he knows just how to keep it running along. And if this had done that, aside from the bad acting and the bad whatever, I would have actually been okay with it. Like, the one thing that I dread about, like, us going to see all these bad movies is I don't want to be the guy who sits down and shits on, like, some independent guy making a movie. I don't want to do that. I really don't. But, like, I've seen independent guys who know how to edit, right? And even when the acting is bad, know how to give that actor something that is their strength, like whatever it is, and put them in the right thing. Because even if I'm casting you and John and Ben and whoever, right, and Matt and Craig and whatever.
Well, that's why I'm saying Zombie
I know
is
who's
better.
good at doing.
Well, that's why I'm saying Zombie is better,
roles,
because
right?
I know that this one was, finished and didn't have weird stories in it, but there wasn't a single scrap of a moment of trying to do something that you felt like entertained him. Everything he was doing was like an approximation of what he thought an entertaining zombie movie looks like. Well, nothing that like thrilled him or excited him.
It's literally like the worst episode of The Walking Dead you've ever seen that lifts from Day of the Dead, 28 Days Later, like, you name it. It lifts from, I kind of got tired running out of things where I'm like, oh, that's from that movie, that's from that movie. And not even in an artful way, just in oh yeah, well, the military in it, so they've got to be bad, I guess, because they're always bad in movies. So I'm like, when Day of the Dead's done it, and 28 Days Later have done it, like, give it up, write something else.
Yeah.
Because look, the only way, let's say a screenwriter sits opposite you, right, to tell you a movie, right?
Right.
The only way you listen to the rest of what he has to say, if his sentence starts with, so it's a zombie film, the only way you listen is if the next 3 sentences after so it's a zombie film are literally something you've never heard before and genuinely, like, grab you by the seat of your pants. Like, unless the next 3 sentences are, set on a space station, entirely populated by Gary Buseys, you're like, unless something grabs you.
Right. It's a zombie movie set on an alien space station, entirely populated by Gary Busey.
Yes, and only Lance Henriksen can stop it. Or whatever.
Right.
I mean, I'm just making stuff up, but I'm just saying.
Lance Henriksen and Gary Busey together.
Yeah.
Okay.
Fused together at the hip by some mutant disease.
You should be pitching.
What I'm saying is, unless that's the case, don't make a zombie film.
Well, look,
That's what I'm saying.
No,
because if the next sentence is not, and then his head opens up and, who's the guy you really hate from Monk?
Calhoun.
His head opens up and he's really Tony Calhoun. Unless that's the next sentence, nobody's interested.
Right. It's not that I mind that it rips stuff off. And it's not even that I mind that it's just a boring zombie film. It's not trying to do anything new. It just, there wasn't anything about it that was even a bit good.
No, but that's what I'm saying. I'm not trying to say that everything has to be original and new and shiny.
No, but it has
and
to have
blah,
something
blah, blah.
to it.
But it has
I
to have
agree.
something.
Yeah. Because the thing is, right?
Nothing about The Evil Dead is new and original and exciting and interesting.
Except the hero.
The first one, except the way it's shot.
Right.
And the story behind the way it was shot. That's what elevates that movie and keeps it going.
Yeah.
Campbell doesn't come into his own until the sequel, really.
Yeah, fair enough. But this is the thing. It's not as if you even need that much these days. I mean, what was gobsmacking me with every second of the movie that passed was just how devoid of anything good because sometimes things that are done professionally can be empty and empty rip-offs that are just there to get your money.
Man of Steel, for example.
Right. And yeah, okay, they're horrible, but like I say, there's something involved there. The professional sheen on it is what gets you to accept that it's like empty. Or you have something that has none of that. It's got no professionalism, no sheen. Nobody knows what the fuck they're doing. But
it's got heart and ball.
But because it's got heart, because they would have to get made for these people.
Right.
So to sit
Not
there,
to get made, but to get seen.
to sit there and watch something made with like absolute emptiness for no reason other than to make money, without a scrap of professionalism anywhere inside, is an awe-inspiring experience almost.
Oh, they were able
Because
to...
it's nothing but like sheer will, that's it.
They were able to pay for stock footage of mountains from the Serengeti.
No, they were able to pay for half. I think it must have been like an old TV thing, because they wanted to do the thing where the guy shot his gun.
And then the birds flew
and
out
then
of
the birds
the
flew out
tree.
the top of the trees, and he wanted that shot. But I want to know how many times they tried like sneaking up underneath like trees, or just like wandering around a forest in Italy, shooting guns, filming, hoping that some birds flew out. Because they ended up having to buy something that was clearly only made for a 4x3 old TV show.
Right.
Because they had to. So I was like,
You're welcome. Thanks, mate.
I was like, why are they? Thanks very much. Lovely.
Time.
Why are they? Because there was like two little. The birds didn't fly off, by the way. He couldn't even get that.
No, they flew round in a circle.
All they got was birds flying around in a circle above some trees. But they were like, why are there two groups of birds exactly equidistant from each other, flying above? Oh, because they doubled the shot in order to fill the.
Yeah.
I mean, that right there is a peculiarly like weird brand of like laziness, because just a shot of some trees would have been fine. Like, you've got this thing in your head, right? I want the birds flying away the trees. I mean, it's horribly unoriginal. We've seen it done a million times before, but that's what I want. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Can we film it? No. Can I buy stock footage of it? No. Can I get stock footage of some birds near some trees? Yes, but it'll only feel half as great. Fine, we'll double it and that'll do. Like, that's the...
That's
do you know what I
literally
mean?
what
Like, that's
happened.
the conversation. That's what happened. So,
Yeah, that's
how the hell do
incredible.
you get away with that?
I don't know.
Why not just shoot anything else?
I don't shoot the director.
Do you know what I mean?
in the
Like,
face.
but that's what I mean. Like, to have that degree of incompetence and contempt at the same time, like for them, presumably for themselves, for
Because
the process, for the audience.
But it's something that I see a lot of, not just in foreign movies or independent movies, but in all movies lately, where it's this idea of, well, we know how movies are, so we must do this, like at all costs. Meaning, like, well, we know that what happens in movies, where they're in the woods and a gun is about to be fired, that we have a long shot of trees and some birds fly out of it, because we've seen it. We've seen it in other movies, so we know it must be something that movies do. And so they've tried to do it by any cost, and it's utterly mind-boggling that was the process.
I know, it's so weird. It's almost like a film competition on an alien planet. So like make a zombie Earth film.
Yeah.
And sorry, we're being buzzed by a very tiny plane.
Yeah. They're vacuuming the other booths.
And the only like human actor, the only aliens who can like pretend how to be humans have learned how to speak human from, I don't know, old Italian soap operas or something.
Or old 50s B movies.
It's so close to being a zombie film, while at the same time being like a galaxy away from being an actual film.
And not only that, though,
There wasn't a single moment in it where I forgot. Even in like the worst thing I've ever seen, there are moments where I forget I'm watching a movie and I'm in it. Like I'm involved somehow.
Yeah.
At no point did I forget I was watching a really, really terrible film.
it even had that thing where, and I'm sorry, I'm not going to put it down to language barrier, because there are plenty of movies I know that have been made by people who can't
But I
speak
don't think they
English.
understood what they were saying. That's my point. I don't think they spoke English.
No, but I'm saying, no, they clearly spoke English, because they all spoke English well enough for us to understand them without broken accents or without thick
But I'm
accents.
saying they know how to read, like...
They had accents, right? but they didn't have such thick accents that we couldn't understand.
Except sometimes.
Or that it wasn't broken English. It was perfectly understandable English, other than what the words they were saying was garbled nonsense.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that there was a fundamental disconnect, I think, between... And I'm not saying that they didn't understand any of it. I'm just saying there were moments in the sentences where they were speaking where they clearly didn't know what the sentence meant. They just didn't know what it meant. They were just reading it verbatim. Like, they speak English well enough. Like, if we met them, they could hold a conversation. Right? No question. But reading lines in another language, when clearly they probably didn't have a lot of time.
I guess so.
I could tell there were times when they didn't, halfway through, they didn't know what they were saying.
But it was like when Italian Sorbo said, goes over to another car.
Oh yeah, that was brilliant.
Right, because they come across other cars and then change the tyre for no reason. No explanation of what happened with the tyre, just changing the tyre. They're taking the tyre out of a Renault Twingo and putting it onto an equally impressive automobile. But anyway...
it was a pretty poor standard of vehicle.
It was a pretty poor stand of everything. But Italian Sorbo goes over to another car, finds a CB radio, fiddles with it for a little bit, and comes across a recording that says, like, come to the ocean and we're sending a ferry out to an island where there aren't zombies, right?
Right.
So, like, he goes to the other two, Alice and Jeff, or whatever his name was, Italian Giles. He goes, Alice, Italian Giles, come over here, listen to this, right? So they go over, listen to it. He calls them over, like excited, like they're in the middle of doing something.
He calls them over
having
and he is excited.
Long conversation about the meaningless of existence and nostrils and cake. And he calls them over, excited, come over. So they go over, they listen to the thing like that. And they both get excited. They're both like, this gives us hope. Like, there was clearly an undercurrent in what the director was writing about the nature of hope. Like, that's what he was trying to talk about. That was clearly in there. Because the...
oh, yeah. Italian Giles did say that a few times, didn't he?
He said that a few times, but also she talked about it. And it was... basically, they came round to, as did Italian Sorbo, came round to the idea of, in a situation like this, where anything seems hopeless, like she says, what am I going to do? Go off and sit in a building somewhere and wait for this all to blow over? Like, why would that happen? That having some hope and some belief in something, i.e. this island or this ferry or this whatever, will at least keep us going in a positive, hopeful way with a goal than having nothing at all to aim for, right?
Yeah.
Which...
Okay.
If it had been written well, that would have been like a really nice sentiment to have in the movie, right? But it kind of got lost under a lot of other ponderous drivel. But that's basically what they were all saying. And the reason why he hangs himself is he can't accept hope. Like, he can't accept that leap of faith.
This is dangerous now. You're starting to make it sound like...
No, that's what the writer was going for. He just didn't know how to put it across particularly well. But that's what the writer was going for, I think.
No, I think that's fair. I think you're making it. I think that sounds about right.
And yeah, right. So that was really nice, that moment. But then immediately, because he didn't understand like how to present it, Italian Sorbo, who was the one who initially got excited about the message, he suddenly went, oh, hang on a second, now they're all excited about the message. We can't have them all excited about the message, I have to have conflict. So Italian Sorbo now has to turn around and go, the message could be from years ago, the message is fake,
No.
the message is...
Yeah, he didn't even say it. He said, the message is old, we shouldn't go.
And it's like, but wait a minute, you called them over to like, and got excited about the message. Like, if the message is old, the message doesn't matter, and blah, 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 like, why not listen to the message, then walk over to the car later on and say, I heard this message over there, but it's fake and it's old and whatever. Like, if he started that way, that would have been fine.
Yeah.
But he didn't. He went, come over here, come over here, come over here. Nah, don't bother. Like, and it didn't make any sense. So that's what I mean. It's like,
but that was the great, brilliant argument in it. The argument between the three of them was extraordinary because, like you're saying, he knew that there had to be conflict, and that these three characters were in conflict, and there was one who was for it, one who was against it, and one who wasn't sure. But how those positions were represented was completely brilliant. Like, completely brilliant.
But you mean brilliant in a non...
Oh, yeah, in a non-brilliant way. But as in, no art, no... just nothing approximating sense, you know? Just like shadows on a wall of an argument,
Of nothing.
of dialogue, you know? There was so much of the movie that was like this curious disconnect.
And meanwhile,
how can you get people in a room talking, film that happening, and yet make it be so that it's not quite... It's not people talking in a room, somehow. It's like an impression of what it would be like.
Okay, so talking about like probably a similar budget, maybe
Right.
even cheaper,
Right.
considering there was no like big producer involved. Similar budget, European movie,
Right.
genre movie.
Right.
It was called Atomic Eden, and I watched it
saw
recently.
that, I think.
And it had Fred Williamson in it,
Oh, no, I didn't see that.
and it was meant to be like Fred Williamson puts together a band of expendable type people, goes to Chernobyl or
I like it already.
a similar like
I like it
place,
already.
where the radiation is such that they can spend like a couple of days there but no more.
Right.
Right, so there's a time ticking clock thing on it. And the Germans, towards the end of the war, when they knew they were lost, buried a doomsday machine underneath Chernobyl in this old like German encampment place thing. And Fred Williamson is going in there with his band of people to get it out because it can't fall into the wrong hands, because if it falls into the wrong hands, like, the world is doomed. So it has to be in Fred Williamson's hands, because who else better to handle the Doomsday Machine
Than
than
Fred
the
Williamson.
Hammer himself?
Right, got it.
Right. I wouldn't trust anyone else.
I wouldn't.
I wouldn't trust anyone else. The Hammer's got it. I can sleep easy at night. Clearly, the director was like, I have a burnt-out warehouse. I have Fred Williamson. I have my buddy Hans, who can do some martial arts, because they clearly knew like a martial arts school.
Right.
Because there was even a sequence of the movie where they were doing at the beginning, before Fred showed up to be like, "Hey, join my team," where they were doing like a martial arts demonstration. So clearly they in a dojo. So they clearly knew. They're probably like German martial arts fanatics who made this movie, right? Had a couple of people do some martial arts, had a couple of fairly attractive women, had Fred Williamson, and had this burnt out warehouse, right? Oh, and had a bunch of white boiler suits and gas masks, because the evil guys who want to get it show up, and they're all dressed like in the crazies with the boiler suits and the gas masks, and they have to fight them and shoot them and blah blah blah. Now it was fairly repetitive, because what happened was he puts the band together at the beginning of the movie. They get to the burnt-out warehouse. They're trying to find the Doomsday Machine, or the map to the Doomsday Machine, or the stick that points to the map to the Doomsday Machine, and are beset upon by hundreds of people with machine guns, white boiler suits, gas masks, whatever. Action sequence. They retreat. Nighttime sequence where they all sit around and talk about life. Attack again. Retreat, and so on. Right?
Right.
Very, very, very limited. But what it did, and the reason why I'm bringing it up, versus what this movie did, Sleep of the Dead, or whatever it was called, Redundancy of the Dead, or Enough with the Dead already, was that...
Enough of the Dead.
Yeah, Enough of the Dead. Was that it played to its strengths, right?
Right.
So, although the Hammer clearly can't do the stunts he used to be able to, there was plenty of shots. Like the director who had Hammer on set probably 3 days, I would imagine, made sure he'd get plenty of shots of the Hammer chewing on a cigar, firing a gun, saying a one-liner, punching someone. Like, he made sure he got those things in multiple ways.
Right.
So that at any point in the movie, you can cut to the Hammer punching someone, chewing on a cigar, saying a one-liner, and shooting someone else. Right? And then all you have to do is film a bunch of people in white boiler suits with blood packs, falling downstairs, falling out a window, setting themselves on fire, whatever. Cut back to Fred Williamson, says something. But brilliant. Then you film your guy who can do the really impressive martial arts and stunts and is definitely gung-ho and clearly wants to do big things in the world of action and martial arts, even be a stuntman, whatever. Film him in this warehouse taking on 50 people. Just film and do it. Doesn't matter. Just keep filming, keep filming, keep filming. Add it in, add it in, add it in. So it played to its strengths. It played absolutely to its strengths. And was it like a great movie? No. Was it a B movie that I would even necessarily recommend everyone go out and grab? Not really. But did it absolutely do what it said on the tin in terms of like a Netflix movie where you're like Atomic Eden about Fred Williamson trying to get the Doomsday Machine from a bunch of crazies with the gas mask? Yeah, I'll put that on a Sunday afternoon. Absolutely. Absolutely, that's what it did. Did this movie do anything that it even remotely promised at any point ever? And did it have any promise? No.
I was going to say, it would be difficult to figure out what the movie's strengths were.
Well, they could film nature in a pretty nice way, and they had some makeup effects. That's what I said at the beginning of the movie, beginning of the podcast.
But it seemed to be the same makeup effect. Like the zombies had the same. Like they had the whole Day of the Dead. What's his name? Who's the zombie they keep in the room in Day of the Dead?
Oh, Bub.
Bub. It had the Bub look.
Yeah, their faces were almost like Buffy vampiric faces because they had like built-out noses and built-out
but it had that
foreheads.
But that's what Bub has too. That's like
no, Bubs is more wrinkly. Bubs is more like an actual.
Theirs was kind of wrinkly. Like they had the wrinkle. They were wrinkly.
But also, did you notice how the beginning 2 or 3 zombies we saw were very well made up, and by the end, where you had like
mostly in
5
shadow.
zombies running up to a fence, it was just people with some white makeup on.
Yeah.
Like not even particularly. Like it was literally like, here are 5 kids we've paid £1 each to run up to a fence and go unconvincingly.
Yeah, there was a lot of that.
Also,
unconvincing.
Again, and I'm speaking as someone who's tried it, if you can't get 20 people together to be zombies, or even 15 people together in one space to be zombies, don't make a zombie movie. There were vast ways of this movie where there were no zombie movies. There were no zombies.
Yeah, there really weren't any.
They sat on a wooded lane in the middle of nowhere for hours and talked about their feet.
And we do definitely need to say at this point that the one lesson I would take away from this film is, if you are find yourself in the middle of a zombie apocalypse, keep your window wound up. That's all I'm saying. The guy...
Or keep moving. Either one.
Yeah, either one's fine.
Yeah.
But the male lead gets killed by being bitten while he's gabbing away to his girlfriend in the parked car about absolutely nothing. Well, no, they're actually, it's dramatic irony is what they're talking. Because they're going, "I love you. I'm so glad we're doing this. We're going to be okay." You know, he might as well have pulled a picture out of his dog and gone, "One day I'm going to get back to my dog." You know, that kind of thing.
Cut to a shot of the dog being shot in the face.
Right. And then the zombie leans through the open window of the car that they're just sitting in
and bites his hand.
At least wind the window up.
No, but the whole thing was ridiculous. And also, like, that's the other thing. The leaving the sister alive meant nothing. The fact that she was pregnant meant nothing.
Yeah, that was
the dream
absolutely
sequences about her and her baby and all the rest of it meant nothing.
Unless, I mean, it ended on the point where it's absolutely convinced there's going to be a sequel.
This is the other thing. The
It's
only balls it has to the whole thing is that it ends in a way that suggests a sequel. Even with its own new, like, be-earringed, gold snaggletooth.
Oh my God, he was great. He was properly
guy.
like, this is where they got, whatever town they found that guy in. Because it was great. It ended with like, oh no, there's no ferry, it's all been for nothing. And then it was like directed by Blurdy Blur. But then there was a gunshot, and then, the movie's back on. And then she turns around and looks at...
Just when you thought it was over, and it was safe to leave the cinema.
It turns around, and there's the guy, and he is from the town that they used to get all of the people who Clint Eastwood shoots in spaghetti westerns.
Yeah.
He was properly, like, mad hair, snaggletooth, crazy eyes, like,
and
the
he
whole 9 yards.
Do you know what happened was?
I'd love to have seen him in the movie.
That's what I was saying. He shuffled into shot, right, in slow motion with some, like, bum, bum, bum music, with his snaggle teeth going all over the place and his eyebrows up and about and grinning away with a couple of, like, lunkhead meatballs behind him. And I was like... Can we watch this movie, please? Like, why aren't I watching this movie?
Yeah.
I want to see Snaggletooth and the Meatballs, going after women.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean...
With a van.
It was... It just boggles my mind because there's a thing about... On IMDb, it says... There's some, like, movie, like some kind of, like, Dead Bride... Yeah, we're all good. Thank you very much. Thank you. Something like, Dead Bride or Corpse, whatever. and like he's been announced as the director. And I'm thinking, so is that the sequel to this? Because I can see how if she's been kidnapped and she's pregnant, maybe she ends up being a bride. Like, I don't know, something like that. And the woman that was immune to the disease, she's still wandering around. Right?
But even she annoyed me.
Yeah, she was annoying.
Yeah. Because...
She didn't speak.
No.
She screamed.
She was given... A guy lost his life. A guy who we find out is a family man. Not only that, but the only Englishman in the whole movie. Also an ugly fucker. But anyway...
I'm pretty sure he was hired to be the announcer at the beginning. I wanted it... For some reason, I wanted an English voice on the... That TV thing at the beginning.
Right.
They're going, oh, and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
You know,
Whatever.
plot explanation
Yeah.
was him.
Okay. So... He loses his life, family man,
Leg, then
with
life.
a blind, deaf daughter. Loses his leg, then his life, to save the one hope humanity has. She runs about 100 yards to a nearby shoemaker's factory.
Hides, which is
I'm
full
not
of zombies.
making this up.
Which is full of zombies.
Full of zombies, but then she's immune to them, so it doesn't matter. Right?
Right.
And they're not bothered by her. They don't want to eat her either, which we see at the end. Hides, and then when the guy comes after her, or guy's wandering around talking to himself in the middle of the factory, instead of, I don't know, getting out there, hiding, not moving, killing him, anything.
Doing literally anything.
She runs down the centre of the road.
Down the road. That was what annoyed me.
So that he can drive up to her in a car.
He's driving in a car. She's running down a road. Next to the road is a huge,
woodland,
dense forest.
But they didn't have the rights to film in there.
Just run into the forest.
Probably owned by Jeff Landowner.
Giovanni
Landowner.
Giovanni Landowner. But it was like, because she was running, and then he got in the car, and I bet she's running down the middle of the road.
Yeah.
And sure enough, she was.
Yeah.
And all she does when he drives up is he slows down and she stops.
Yeah.
That's it? You're not even going to like run off a little bit to the side? Not even going to try and leave the road to see what happens?
So none of it makes any sense. There was glimmers of like things he was trying to do but failed miserably at, and all in all, I just wanted it to end.
I do think it's the worst film I've sat through, like all the way through.
It's certainly the worst movie I've ever paid cinema prices to see.
I'm trying to think.
Except Man of Steel.
I'm trying to think about. I guess there were things in It Follows. Some of the music was okay.
Oh no, It Follows was an infinitely better movie than this.
Yeah, I guess.
This was less annoying than It Follows.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. It was less annoying, but you're right, it was a better movie. Because at least,
It Follows.
Pretentious and annoying as it was trying to do something.
Yeah.
Even if it didn't know what it was. This was...
No, it knew what it was. It was a guy who'd watched lots of John Carpenter movies when he was 8.
Yeah. No,
I thought, what if I stuck a man
I
in
haven't
the
seen
bluff
anything.
on his roof?
I haven't seen anything this bad since the Macbeth short film nights. You have to sit through those short films and you think, just the blindness that's on display here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like those short films where the difference between what they thought they were doing and what it was that we were watching was so enormous. It took your breath away. It was like that. Except for a whole movie. And all they were trying to accomplish was making a shit zombie film. And still, they were light years away from
What is incredible to me is two things. First of all, that anyone watches, fuck watching it, that someone is on set doing that shaky thing with the camera and thinks that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Right? I don't know where that comes from, right? Because it's one thing to watch like the Bourne films, right, where he only actually employs like the handheld shaky stuff when there's actually an action sequence going on, and even then you can still tell what's actually going on in the action sequence because he's actually doing it in a way that accentuates it. Plus the editing is pacey and the plot.
It's a lot to do with the sound as well. I realise with the Bourne action sequences, it's the sound of the.
It's one thing watching that, and then another thing to be in the beige apartment they were in at the beginning of the movie, right? That apart from a slightly fancy sync backsplash was pretty beige and awful and average and terrible, and the kind of thing where you're like, Jesus, the sound quality in here is going to be awful, and there's no visual feast for the eyes on the background because it's just this white beige part. To be stood in there and go, while she's making toast or whatever she was doing at the beginning of the movie, how about I like wave the camera around a bit? Like, I don't understand why. Who thinks that? Who's doing it? Because it must take more effort than just standing still. Or putting on a tripod and walking away. Pressing the little button and sitting down.
Yeah.
Right? So that's my first thing. Why is that still a thing? Why is that still a thing? I don't understand why it's still a thing.
Well,
second-
whatever the thing is, its cause has not been helped by this movie.
Right. And secondly, it's a plea to all people out there making independent movies that are meant to be genre movies, be them horror, be them sex comedies, be them zombies, gore, whatever they are, movies, B movies, alien movies, any, whatever.
Sorry.
Action movies, any genre film.
We get it.
Keep the pace up. We don't care about your philosophy on life, right?
Did you guys care for December?
I think we're all right.
I think we're good, yeah. I think
Yeah, I
we'll
think
just
we're
take
fine.
the check.
We'll take the check.
Okay,
Thanks very much.
We don't care about your philosophy on life, right? You're not Christopher Nolan, and I don't even care about Christopher Nolan's philosophy on life. So I don't care about your philosophy on life unless you are writing on the level of Bruce Robinson or Tom Stoppard or Terry Gilliam or someone who's those kind of movies. I don't care about your banter, your dialogue, don't do it. I care about give us a bunch of characters we can enjoy. Don't have to sympathise, empathize, just enjoy, right? I don't care
This
about...
is good advice, actually. I'm wishing someone had told me this 10 years ago.
I don't care about Snake Plissken, but I enjoy Snake Plissken. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I don't empathise or sympathise with him. I hope he wins. I hope he gets to the end and wins. But, like, that I enjoy him, right? So give us a bunch of characters we can enjoy. Don't care what they do, just a bunch of characters enjoy. Keep the pace up, keep the editing up, keep the pace up, keep the thing going, right? Keep the camera fucking still, right? And play to your strengths. Which is exactly like what Rodriguez says. Like, what have you got? I've got a tortoise, I've got a guitar, and I've got a school bus. If they're your strengths, that's it. If you've got Fred the Hammer Williamson and a guy who can do martial arts and a bunch of leftover gas masks, play to your strengths. Like, just do that. If you have a really good special effects makeup dude, and you have a bunch of woods you can run around in, great. Make a monster movie. Do something, anything. Play to those strengths. Right? And make it about 85 minutes.
I have to say,
That's all that matters.
it missed that thing that I can't remember which movie it was that we saw, you and I. But there was a thing. Thanks very much. Thank you.
Oh, and know how to implement a well-placed and enjoyable cliche. It doesn't matter if it's cliched, if it's enjoyable and elicits an applause or a yay or a whatever, use it.
Yeah, that's not. You don't have to do that, but I take your point. If you're going to do it, know what you're doing. No, I mean, given you're right about the special effects.
Are we just splitting this?
Yeah. Given that you're right about the special effects, and some of them were quite good, then rather than doing like have one good moment, like if that's all you can afford, if you can only afford one, what was there was some movie where you said in its defence, well, they only had enough money for one or two big moments, and they took that, and you're right, but they didn't do that in this one. They didn't take any time to go, look, let's take a morning and let's get one special effects sequence really good, really good for the trailer, because they clearly had the makeup effects artists. They did a couple of things with the leg and stuff that were kind of the same effect copied twice with the hand and the leg, but I'm sure they could have done something that was like vaguely good with a little bit of time and patience. And the guy with the talent for the face making. They could have done something, but they didn't. They couldn't be bothered.
No, it's not that they couldn't be bothered. It's because that's not what they were making. They thought they were making like this story about hope. They felt like the zombies were merely there to be like in the way or the obstacle to overcome.
I'm going to have to pull you up on that one. I don't think that's true. I mean, I understand that he thought that there was some message in there about hope, but they weren't making that film with like zombies that we overcome, because then they would have spent more time on that. But they didn't even bring that up until like 45 minutes into the movie, and they totally skipped past it. And he even said, like, I know I'm sounding like a broken record, but we have to hope. But he never said anything like that before. That's why I thought it was so weird.
I guess so.
Like, they didn't spend enough time on that idea for that to be... They were trying to make a rip-off Walking Dead zombie film. And they know that people need to talk about something, so we may as well talk about hope. Rather than, I don't know, ice cream, bears,
No, but it was the only bit of the movie that actually interested me.
I'm not saying it's not interesting. I think you're right about it, that there was something genuinely going on there. And he was trying to say something, but I don't think that he was making the movie to say that thing. I don't think the zombie... Right. He wanted to make a crappy zombie film.
Because that's what always annoys me about The Walking Dead, is they keep stopping and trying to make a life. And it's like, at a certain point, that becomes futile. It's more interesting to, like... It's more interesting because... To have this idea of hope or belief, and I'll tell you why, is because in our own lives, right, where we're both on like wage jobs that allow us to exist but don't allow us to do anything particularly miraculous or wonderful, like we're certainly not poor but we're not wealthy, we're both very happy in our home lives, and we both like dabble in our creativity as and when we can, but beyond that, like the reason why we get up every day and the reason why we keep going is this idea that, well, maybe a year from now, 2 years from now, I'll be able to do X, Y, and Z, whatever that is, and we have like that little bit of hope. And other people have like huge hope, and we call it ambition. And they go, one day I'm going to be a CEO of my own company doing whatever it is, or one day I'm going to be George Clooney, or one day I'm going to be whatever. Like, some people have massive passions and ambitions and hope and all the rest of it, and that's what keeps the human race like getting up every morning, ticking over, moving forward. To stop is to die, to give up is to die, to lose hope is to die, and whatever, right? That is as true in a zombie apocalypse as it is our day-to-day life. Right. So there's an interesting thing to be said there about the nature of existence. In other words, to some extent, we're all, whether you believe in God or not, whether you believe in astrological signs or not, or whatever, even if you're an agnostic nihilist, you're still conning yourself that there's a reason to get up every morning. Because life is ultimately meaningless. So we're all conning ourselves to some extent that there are reasons to get up in the morning. And they're very elaborate cons, and they're very genuine cons. Love and work and travel and whatever it is, we fill our lives with all this stuff. But ultimately it's just stuff we're just doing. It's wonderful stuff and it's lovely stuff and it fills us emotionally and mentally and all the rest of it.
You're making me want to lie down on the floor and never get up.
I'm just saying, belief is important. Hope is important.
I mean, you've made the... Look, you need to put a warning, all right? Because you're making the film sound better and more interesting.
You said, when we were talking about the movies that we've done in the past and trying to sell me on doing this one, you were like, remember what fun we had with the other movie coming up with like a way to do it better. What was that movie?
Maggie,
right. How we would have done it better. Right. How I would have done this better if I'm working with all the same actors, all the same zombie makeup, all the same locations and everything else.
Yeah.
Was I would have rewritten the script to make it about that central concept. That it is better, even in a zombie apocalypse, to have the hope of possible freedom. than it is to just sit in a house and barricade. Because what do they normally do in zombie movies? They sit in a house, they barricade it and think they're safe. But then the screenwriter goes, oh, wait a minute, we're all sat in a house barricaded and the zombies can't get in and we're not going out and we have to do something. So you either have a stranger turn up at the house or you have one of the characters idiotically walk out into the woods talking to themselves and get eaten. Either way, at some point in a movie where they're all barricaded in a house, you have to have someone do something ludicrous in order to continue the movie.
But isn't that whole idea in the zombie movie speaking to that desire within people to shut themselves up in a safe place, away from the horrors and the uncertainties and the pain of the world?
Yeah, it's a totally different message, but I'm saying the only way to do something interesting with what they had, the only way to do something that I haven't, to be honest, fully seen, other than the Whirlybird pilot in Day of the Dead, talks about this idea of like going to an island, soaking up some sun, living out the best way we can. Right. We've got to do something.
Like I do this even if
right. We've got to do something better than this. You know what I mean? But even they never articulate it in the way that I'm talking about.
No, I think you're making a very good point, and I think you're right. I think it would have been an okay movie, and I think if you could have made that movie and you could have set it in Italy, and you could have had one English character explaining why they're talking. It doesn't really matter. I'm just saying, yeah, you could have made that movie.
You have, what's his face from Dog Soldiers, the one we really like, Pertwee.
Pertwee.
You have him sit there and be like, bloody oat, you got to have oat, mate. You got to have oat. Or whatever it is. And he does like some like soliloquy about hope, and it's all great.
I fucking love Pertwee.
Wouldn't that be amazing?
Yeah.
Pertwee talks hope. That's what I would have done to this movie. End of podcast.
Yeah.
And now you very luckily get a sneak listen to a song from an album that I'm currently working on. This song is called Before It Was Too Late. Hope you like it. Gabriel had his top down, a bony and blaring from the dashboard. If he had a body in the trunk, well, who would know? Who would know? Gladys sweeps up the corner bar. It's 4 a.m. and everyone's home. She could just take all of the money, and who would know? Who would know? Before it was too late. Oh, before it was too late. Who would know? Before it was too late. Graham grabs a 6-pack from the cooler and makes his way on down to the river. Well, his girl might have gone and this could be it. Who would know? Well, who would know? Glenda gazes lonely from the rooftop. The city she loves spreads out before her like veins. She could be about to unfurl her wings and fly. Who would know? Well, who would know? Before it was too late. Ooh, before it was too late. Who would know? Before it was too late. Oh yeah. Yeah, before it was too late. Sing it before it was too late. Well, who would know? Before it was too late. Gavin says goodbye to his sweetheart. He's catching the 9:15. Someone else on that train might have had enough. Who would know? Well, who would know? Greta got a lottery ticket.